The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I wonder, can you save me?
You know the deal when you sign up for this life. We all want the fame, the lights, the glitter, but we ain't dumb. We know the only guarantees are a cell or a grave. Rod Diggs, being the man he was, fully understood what the game brings. If he was in it, he knew exactly what could come back his way. When Eulogy dropped, no one could have seen the wild accusations that would later hit Ronald Heron, better known as Rod Diggs. His story reads like some next-level crime thriller. Check this out. Rod Diggs allegedly had one of his boys go deep undercover, wig, lipstick, makeup, the whole setup, just to get close to a target he wanted off the map. His homie even claimed Rod Diggs himself used this disguise to carry out hits on some personal missions. But that's just a sample. This dude's rap sheet was so wild that he ended up getting slapped with 3 life sentences, plus an extra 105 years for good measure. They locked him up in none other than ADX Florence, the notorious Supermax prison, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. If you don't know about ADX, it's where they throw the most dangerous criminals, terrorists, cartel bosses, gang leaders. It's a place so bad they say death is an easier way out. Former wardens and inmates from ADX say that living there is like being dead while still alive. It's complete isolation. And for Rod Diggs, this is where he's serving his time, far removed from the streets he once ran. But how did Rod Diggs, aka Ronald Heron, get here? Let's run it back. Born in 1982, he came up in the tough Gowanus projects of Brooklyn, a neighborhood that's changed a lot with gentrification, but back in his day was as raw as it gets. Back then, the Gowanus projects were a whole different animal. Crime, violence, and struggle were everywhere, and young Rod Diggs got caught up in it early. Like so many, he found himself running with the streets, eventually joining the Bloods. His teenage years were basically a revolving door of correctional facilities, setting the stage for the hard reputation he would build later on. It got real dark in September 1998 when a shooting in nearby Wyckoff Gardens left an innocent bystander dead. Just 2 years later, on October 7th, 2000, Rod Diggs himself got hit, clapped in the leg during a beef over a drug debt. But Raw wasn't the type to let that slide. While still laid up in Kings County Hospital, he pulled strings and had his cousins retaliate, ordering a hit on the guy who clapped him. That move solidified his status in the streets, and he even flexed about it in a track with Uncle Murda, spitting some wild lines on Slow Down that basically incriminated him. But the game kept getting deeper. In 2001, Rod Diggs caught a body charge allegedly gunning down Frederick Brooks, a rival dealer, on June 16, 2001. The scene was brutal. Brooks got hit multiple times in the face, neck, back, and head in the lobby of 198 Bond Street. It was a savage execution, leaving Brooks bleeding out on the floor. Rod Diggs and his Bloods crew tried to get rid of the hit weapon, but the feds were already on his trail, and it wasn't long before they caught up with him. By July 2001, Rod Diggs was locked up and facing trial in New York State Criminal Court for the murder of Frederick Brooks. The prosecution leaned on 2 key witnesses. Let's call them Witness A and Witness B. Both had given recorded statements to the assistant district attorney identifying Rod Diggs as the shooter. They even picked him out of a police lineup. But when it was time to testify in court, things took a wild turn. Both witnesses recanted, claiming that Rod Diggs and his crew had threatened them. But that wasn't all. Witness C testified that he saw Rod Diggs and Brooks arguing before following them into the lobby. He said he watched Rod Diggs push Brooks against the mailboxes, pull out a silver gun, and clap him. But even Witness C understood what snitching on Rod Diggs meant. He lied about his own role in the crime to cover himself. Then there was Witness D, who also saw the hit but refused to finger Rod Diggs in court, too scared for his life. The level of fear and influence Rod Diggs commanded in his community was real, and it worked. He got acquitted, later boasting about beating the body, like it was just another notch on his belt. But this wasn't the end of Rod Diggs' run-ins with the law. Throughout the early 2000s, he kept stacking his influence, building up his blood set, known as the Murderous Mad Dogs, using 423 Baltic Street in Brooklyn as his home base. His crew was deep in the game: drug dealing, extortion, robbery, and murder. Even when Rod Diggs got briefly locked up on drug charges, he still maintained control of his enterprise from behind bars, never losing his grip on the streets. By the time he was released in July 2007, Rod Diggs wasn't slowing down. He was plotting bigger moves to expand his empire. But the streets never stay quiet for too long. In '07, a local dealer referred to in court as John Doe was moving work in the same projects Rod Diggs controlled. Competition wasn't something Rod Diggs tolerated. He ordered two of his guys to rob John Doe, catching him in a building lobby. Even though one of John Doe's friends tried to intervene, it wasn't enough. One of Rod Diggs' men pulled a strap, while the other emptied Doe's pockets, walking away with about $600 to $700 in cash. After the robbery, Rod Diggs wasn't done sending his message. He confronted John Doe on the 12th floor, giving him a stern warning: either stop moving work in his territory or face the consequences. Intimidated, John Doe laid low for a few months, but eventually, he came back to the block. This time, though, he wasn't reckless. He approached Rod Diggs for permission to continue selling. Raw granted it, but on one condition: John Doe had to cop work directly from him. As time went on, John Doe became a trusted figure within Rod Diggs' operation, even supervising deliveries from suppliers and handling the distribution to street dealers. By early May 2008, the tension for Rod Diggs hit a new high when Richard Russo made some disrespectful comments. Russo was chilling in the lobby of 423 Baltic Street with Ra's crew while they were busy selling. Feeling reckless, Russo started questioning Ra's authority in Gowanus and even threatened him. It wasn't long before that mistake caught up with him. Just a few days later, on May 9th, 2008, Rod Diggs decided to handle things personally. He approached Russo in that same lobby and told him to get in the elevator. Once inside, Rod Diggs pulled out a strap and bodied him. To ensure nobody talked, Raw handed out cash to one of his guys, making sure they kept their mouths shut and properly disposed of the weapon. But Richard Russo wasn't the only one on Rod Diggs' hit list. Another target, Kendall Robinson, aka Smurf, had been causing problems around the block where Rod Diggs was running his operation. Robinson was involved in several violent incidents that interfered with Raw's money, and Raw wasn't about to let that go unchecked. On September 13th, 2008, Rod Diggs put the plan into motion. One of his hitters tracked down Robinson and clapped him outside 185 Nevin Street with a .40 caliber strap. Though Robinson survived the attack, the message was loud and clear: Raw wasn't playing around. Even though Rod Diggs wasn't physically there for the shooting, his crew was always ready to handle his dirty work, ensuring the job was done. To give you a sense of the type of people Rod Diggs was dealing with, Kendall Robinson, just 21 years old, would later be sentenced to life without parole in 2013 for the cold-blooded life ending of Altia Kanye, a 16-year-old girl. Her crime? She had pressed assault charges against one of Robinson's homies and refused to drop them, even after he got locked up. In retaliation, Kendall Robinson sought out Altia Conyers, hitting her 3 times as she tried to escape, but he wasn't done. As Conyers begged for her life, Robinson coldly stood over her and fired 3 more shots into her head and face, ensuring her death. Fast forward to November 2008, Rod Diggs' crew got into another beef, this time with a group selling drugs in the Wyckoff Gardens projects. One of Ra's associates was moving work in the area when a guy named Victor Zapata told her she couldn't sell there anymore. Ra's partner, George Mejia, decided to confront Zapata, but things went sideways. On November 9th, 2008, Mejia got hit about 5 times during the confrontation. Rod Diggs and his crew were furious, even recording a meeting while Mejia was recovering in the hospital planning their retaliation. They posted the video titled Project Music on YouTube as part of an extended music video, though it has since been deleted. On December 23rd, 2008, one of Ra's hitters was caught with a loaded .22 caliber strap and body armor while trying to flee the police. Though Rod Diggs avoided arrest then, the heat was building. Finally, on September 27, 2009, Ra caught up with Victor Zapata in the Wyckoff Gardens courtyard. He walked him down and hit him multiple times, bodying him, avenging Mejia's shooting. Just a few days later, on October 1st, 2009, Ra Diggs and one of his homies got caught slipping in a BMW that had been double parked on a busy street. The police searched the car and found a loaded 9mm strap with 10 rounds in the clip. It appeared to have been fired recently, although details around the discharge weren't immediately clear. Around that same time, though it wouldn't come to light until Ra Diggs' court case in 2014, there was some drama involving Ra and Jim Jones. According to testimony from Ra's driver, it all started when Ra showed up at one of Jim Jones's studio sessions in New York, bringing that blood's energy into the spot. Jones wasn't feeling it and told Ra to take it outside. Ra didn't take kindly to that, and after storming out, he allegedly broke the glass door on his way out. But that wasn't the end. Later that night, Ra and his goons tracked down Jim Jones at a well-known strip club called Sue's Rendezvous in Mount Vernon. When Raw walked in, the DJ announced his presence, and according to reports, Jim Jones's face went pale, looking like he'd seen a ghost. He quickly made his exit, not wanting to test Raw's patience or his reach. Raw Diggs later opened up about the Jim Jones incident, making it clear that while things were cool between them at that point, he did pull up on him that night, confirming the tension that unfolded at Sue's rendezvous. But one of the most bizarre arrests came when Raw got cuffed for something as minor as littering. While dropping a gum wrapper on the ground might seem insignificant, a cop who stopped him noticed Raw was wearing military-grade body armor. This quickly escalated the situation. The officer later mentioned how Raw was the first person he'd ever stopped who was suited up in body armor like that. Raw was subpoenaed for the armor, and while the media spun the story as if this event was the turning point in taking down his whole operation, that wasn't the reality. In truth, the feds had been building their case against him for years. The final takedown happened on October 5th, 2010. After NYPD and U.S. Marshals had been tracking him for a while, they decided to move in when they saw Raw Diggs enter Club Amnesia in Manhattan with two of his associates. The moment Raw and one of his men stepped out of the vehicle, they were arrested on the spot. His driver tried to make a fast getaway but was swiftly caught by NYPD within minutes. The wild part of Raw Diggs' story is how he was balancing a rising rap career while actively running his violent criminal enterprise. He was even featured on Waka Flocka Flame's debut album, Flockavelli, on the track Live by the Gun, where he appeared alongside Uncle Murda and the Murder Team. In his verses, Raw Diggs spit some deeply incriminating lyrics, which later played a key role in the federal case against him. He boasted about real-life violent acts, including the ending of someone who clapped him, claiming that 2 days after he was clapped, his assailant was ended. Shockingly, those lyrics were an exact reflection of actual events. Raw Diggs didn't just talk about street life, he documented it in his music, specifically mentioning his murderous Mad Dogs, MMD, Blood Set, which would later become part of the charges stacked against him in his massive federal case. He boasted in his lyrics about how his crew would body-ish on his command, even mentioning the bodies of Victor Zapata and Frederick Brooks, two of the homicides that would seal his fate in court. In another track, a remix of Slow Down, Raw boldly bragged about how to smoke a man on the Ave, and then beat the case with a specific legal strategy known as an 18B defense. The 18B line referred to the murder of Frederick Brooks, the brutal shooting from 2001 in which witnesses later recanted under intimidation. Raw's lyrics, combined with his real-life activities, were used by prosecutors to tie him to a series of violent crimes, turning his music into an unintended, self-incriminating confession. What makes this even crazier is that Raw Diggs and his crew shot the music video for Live by the Gun right in the Gowanus projects, the very area where many of these violent acts took place. It was almost as if his music was a documentary of the streets he controlled, a choice that would backfire as the feds pieced together his lyrics and real-world actions to bring him down. Raw Diggs, known for always representing his brand Vanguard, lived a life marked by intense street loyalty and raw, unapologetic music that mirrored his reality. One of the most defining moments of his music career came with the release of his track, Eulogy. This track, dropped just a month after the passing of his mother and shortly before his final arrest, captures the eerie, almost prophetic nature of his lyrics. In Eulogy, Raw Diggs spits aggressive bars, raw and unfiltered, taking shots at those who rap fiction while he claims to spit real rap. The lines emphasize his commitment to authenticity, even as he reflects on the 14 years since he last cried, a subtle nod to the hardened persona he built over the years. These lines reference a tragic incident from 1994 that left a lasting impact on Diggs. Back then he was just a kid playing a game of cops and robbers with his friends, split into two teams armed with fake straps. But what started as innocent fun ended in a nightmare when Nichols Hayward, a 13-year-old friend of Raw Diggs, was ended by a police officer who mistook the toy strap for a real 9mm. The story was even covered by the New York Times, a stark reminder of how quickly things can turn deadly fast. Forward to February 13th, 2012, when Raw Diggs' life took another drastic turn. He was officially indicted, slapped with 23 counts that included racketeering, 3 bodies, conspiracy to body, attempted bodies, robbery, illegal possession, and use of firearms and moving narcotics. With the weight of these charges, he was staring down the possibility of the death penalty. Raw Diggs' legal troubles worsened in March 2012 when he was caught with a cell phone while in solitary confinement, adding to his mounting issues as he awaited trial. This wasn't his first serious run-in with the law, as earlier he had managed to dodge a body charge in the early 2000s. In that case, tied to the ending of Frederick Brooks, witnesses had initially identified Raw as the hitter, but later refused to testify, likely due to intimidation from Raw Diggs' crew. This act of witness silence helped him walk free at the time, though he would later face charges for this same body. At this stage, the media started zooming in on his lyrics, trying to build the narrative that his music was driving his criminal activities. But while the lyrics were damning, they were just the tip of the iceberg. What really did him in was the sheer number of people who turned against him, people who were once close to him, but ended up testifying in court, spilling all the details. In eulogy, Diggs also rapped, "I solemnly swear, before I let them give me 120 years. 120 years, imagine that there." The irony of those words would hit hard later on. On June 26, 2014, after being convicted of racketeering and 3 bodies, Diggs avoided the death penalty, which had been taken off the table earlier. However, he wasn't spared from a life behind bars. Instead, he was handed 3 life sentences, plus an additional 105 years. His response to the judge was defiant. "You can sentence me to 10 life sentences. I'm only going to die one time, and God have mercy on us all." The judge, however, was not moved. Recognizing Diggs' articulate nature, he noted how even now Diggs seemed oblivious to the misery he had caused. To drive the point home, the judge granted his wish and added 10 more life sentences, bringing Diggs' total to 12 life terms plus 105 years. Raw Diggs was sent to ADX Florence, the infamous Supermax prison in Colorado, often referred to as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. This place is reserved for the worst of the worst, housing notorious criminals like El Chapo, the Boston Marathon bomber, James Marcello of the Chicago outfit, Larry Hoover, founder of the Gangster Disciples, Mahmoud Abu Halima, one of the men behind the '93 World Trade Center bombing, and founders of the Aryan Brotherhood. ADX Florence is where mass life-takers and terrorists are confined under brutal conditions designed to prevent any chance of escape or violence. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Ray Diggs still has his supporters. Some argue that he didn't commit many of the crimes he's been accused of, although skepticism remains high. Over the years, Diggs has attempted to appeal his sentence multiple times, claiming that his First Amendment rights were violated, but every appeal has been denied. Maserati Fox, real name Jamal Green, was that kind of dude that lived and breathed Southside Jamaica, Queens. Him and 50 Cent came up in the same world, both products of the Westside Merrick area, where the grind was daily and respect was everything. The two were homies, tight enough that when Fox got out of prison in the mid-2000s, he unofficially started rolling with G-Unit. But before the music industry even knew his name, he'd been deep in the streets, making his mark young. The nickname Fox supposedly came from an early incident. Word has it 2 guys tried to rob him for a chain, but one of them left with a $1.50, that classic Queens cut from ear to jaw that takes 150 stitches to close. When he got the name Mazaradi, he was in the studio with 50 and Stack Bundles, another Queens native Fox had a close bond with. 50 dropped a line about Mazarati Fox fresh out the body shop, and that was all it took. He ran with the name. At his peak, Fox said he had 13 whips to his name. According to people around him, 50 Cent tried to keep him out of the streets and bring him into the music game, but he also knew Fox would serve as security when needed, a street soldier. But to really understand what led Fox to that life and the path that eventually caught up to him, we have to go back to a particular night in 1998. On July 7th, 1998, a taxi driver named Lloyd picked up Fox and 3 others outside 117-02 Foch Boulevard around midnight, 10 p.m. Fox hopped into the front while the others piled into the back. One of them, let's call him Andy, was among the crew. They made a few stops before finally heading toward the infamous Baisley projects. When they pulled up, Fox got out and walked over to a group of guys in front of a building at 16,311 Foch Boulevard. Lloyd saw him getting animated, hands moving like he was deep in an argument. When Fox got back in the cab, he told Andy and the third guy, Leon, that he'd been disrespected and told them, "Pop that ninja." Andy and Leon jumped out with guns. Seconds later, shots were ringing out in the night. Lloyd ducked down in the driver's seat, unable to see who pulled the trigger or how many shots were fired. The men ran back to the taxi, guns still in hand. As they sped off, Andy pressed his piece to Lloyd's head, demanding he keep driving and run a red light at the next intersection. When they finally reached a safe spot, the 3 men exited, and Lloyd went home, probably still trying to piece together what had just gone down. At the trial, Lloyd initially tried to cover his tracks, claiming he wasn't even there, but eventually, the whole story came out. After the first version of his story, police talked to Lloyd's girlfriend, which led to Lloyd changing his story and giving the full account he later shared in court. He said he knew both Fox and Andy from previous cab rides and identified each of them in separate lineups before the trial. Then there was Hogan, another witness who happened to be standing with a guy named Etheridge near the bottom of the hill at 1631 Foch that night. According to Hogan, Fox came up, slapped him, and then ordered Leon and Andy to body everybody. Moments later, shots rang out, and Hogan took off, hearing screams behind him as he ran. When he got home, Hogan called 911, then went back to the scene, where he saw Curtis Scott lying on the ground. Jamel Scott, Curtis's brother, testified that he was inside 163111 Foch when he heard 3 gunshots. He rushed outside to find his brother on the ground, and Andy standing over him, gun in hand. Fox allegedly told Andy to get Jamel, at which point Andy fired a couple of shots in his direction. Jamel also claimed he saw Leon firing at Etheridge. After Fox, Leon, and Andy fled, Jamel returned to tend to his brother. Another piece of evidence came from a paramedic named Caprico, who testified that when he examined Curtis Scott, he found a silver gun lying between Curtis's right arm and chest. Investigators later found a .380 slug in Etheridge's chest. Following this series of events, Fox ended up doing an 8-year prison sentence, 5 years in the state and 3 in federal custody, on charges connected to the shooting and for other alleged offenses like money laundering. Although he wasn't convicted of homicide, he did receive a 4-year sentence for weapon possession in 2001. During this stretch, there were allegations from Smurf, another Queens figure, that Fox had cooperated with authorities, though according to Smurf, the full truth was never confirmed. While serving his federal time, Fox crossed paths with Peter Rawlik, aka Pistol Pete, known as a leader of the Blood Sex Money Murder set. They shared a cell, and during that time, Pete confided in Fox that his crew had gone 999, a term for those cooperating with authorities. Later, when Fox was moved to Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, he was said to start representing sex money murder, officially aligning himself with the set. Fox returned to the streets around 2005, although there were rumors he'd been shot at during a dice game incident, a story that some say was just street talk. Soon after, he linked up with 50 Cent, who was already a powerhouse in hip-hop. With connections to Stack Bundles and his Riot Squad crew, Fox started building a name in music, launching his own label, Dumb Out Records, and gaining fans in the South. Fox's G-Unit affiliation inevitably drew him into beefs with rivals. He had long-standing issues with guys like Domination and Rich Dimes, street rappers who took shots at him during the DVD and World Star hip-hop era. Fox used these platforms to share insights into his life, feuds, and street legacy. When the Rick Ross 50 Cent beef erupted, Fox went after Rick Ross and another Queens artist, Young D's, staying loyal to 50 and defending his South Side roots. The beef between Mazaradi Fox and Domination was one of those situations where both sides were fully armed, but they eventually squashed things privately. Domination, who'd once been close with 50 Cent before their fallout, later faced a manslaughter charge. He turned down a 7-year plea deal, which led to an 18-year sentence. Aside from Fox, Domination had beefs with others in the industry like Lord Tyreek, and would name-drop people like Max B and Young Jeezy in interviews. Fox's circle included the young and flashy Gregory G. Baby Brown, who was a presence in interviews. G. Baby was from Tompkins Projects in Brooklyn and signed to Memphis Bleek's Get Low Records. Between 2006 and 2007, he was reportedly part of a Bloods crew moving millions in White and D in Blair County. But G. Baby's story took a dark turn on March 13, 2010. That night, around 4:30 a.m., 22-year-old G. Baby was gunned down on the corner of Archer Avenue and 143rd Street, just blocks from Amazura nightclub, where he'd been headlining a concert with Fabulous. Rumors circulated that Fabulous was somehow involved in G. Baby's death, sparked by an alleged rivalry between the two, reportedly tied to a woman who was involved with both Fabulous and Fox. The streets were buzzing with speculation, as it was also rumored that Fox's fallout with G-Unit partly stemmed from similar pillow talk drama with a woman. Witnesses recall that G-Baby left Club Amazura with a friend, only to see Fabulous's luxury van parked nearby. Then shots broke out. A witness said he heard 4 shots before turning to see G-Baby trying to run as bullets flew. G-Baby was hit 3 times in the back and collapsed in front of the van. Despite the street being packed with partygoers and cops, the shooter vanished without a trace, leaving people wondering how it was pulled off. In a controversial twist, witnesses claim that club bouncers moved G-Baby's body so Fabulous and his entourage could make a swift exit. G-Baby was pronounced dead at Jamaica Hospital, and the hip-hop community mourned, with condolences from Memphis Bleek, Nicki Minaj, Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and even Fabulous himself. Years later, G-Baby's murder remains unsolved, but his mother, Ms. Brown, has a theory. She believes the shooter mistakenly targeted her son, thinking he was another G-Baby. Her 27-year-old nephew was attacked on Linden Boulevard by the same man she believes killed her son. After the murder, word spread that the shooter was the hitter in the community, known for his violent reputation. Ms. Brown claims that when the shooter learned he'd hit the wrong man, he allegedly clapped the woman who'd given him G-Baby's address. Ms. Brown has the names of those involved, but has chosen to withhold them for her safety. The tragic death of G-Baby marked the end of a promising young life and left unanswered questions in its wake. Maserati Fox's story is one marked by tragedy and violence, from his own street life to the senseless killing of his stepdaughter, Deasia Robinson. Fox was serving time for an attempted assault conviction in 2011 when Deasia's life was cut short in an incident that shocked the Queens community. At just 14, Deasia was a promising student at Campus Magnet High School in Cambria Heights. She was riding the Q6 bus with friends after a Sweet 16 party on May 18, 2013, when a stray bullet struck her in the head. The shooting was reportedly instigated by Shambell Capers, just 15 years old, who aimed at the bus in a gang dispute fueled by social media. Capers and an accomplice, 21-year-old Kevin, fired a .40 caliber gun at the bus, allegedly because someone on board flashed gang signs. The crime resulted in Kevin receiving a 40-year sentence and Capers 15 years. The tragedy drew responses from across the community. Rapper 50 Cent, despite his own public controversies, contributed to Deasia's funeral arrangements, providing a horse and carriage in her memory. He emphasized his connection to his roots and his desire to honor her innocence, saying, "People always try and paint negative images about me. I came through for baby girl by providing a horse and carriage for her. She was pretty, innocent, and didn't deserve to die like that." After Fox was released on December 20th, 2013, his freedom was short-lived. Just 2 weeks later, on January 3rd, 2014, he would be ambushed in a violent attack that ultimately claimed his life. His alleged killer was Jamel Scott, known as Mel, a man whose life was marked by a history of violence, tragedy, and connection to some of New York's most infamous criminal figures. Mel had endured the harrowing murder of his best friend, 12-year-old Donnell Porter, by the notorious Preacher Crew, a gang led by Clarence Heatley, known for a spree of killings, kidnappings, and robberies across New York. Donnell's murder was followed by that of his older brother, Rich Porter, a drug dealer extorted by the same crew. Donnell had been mutilated and tortured, a finger severed, and sent to his family as a warning, along with a tape of him pleading for his life. His body was found months later in the Bronx. By 1998, Mel had also lost his older brother, Curtis, who was killed in the same shooting involving Fox's crew at the Baisley Projects. Despite the trauma and grief, Mel became entangled in street life, with arrests dating back to 1996 for drugs and weapons charges. His eventual arrest in 2014 was tied to Mazaradi Fox's death. According to reports, on January 3, 2014, Fox and others were in a Nissan Rogue, stopped at a sign near 134th Avenue and Farmers Boulevard in Springfield Gardens when Mel and another individual approached and started letting off. A 22-year-old passenger was critically wounded in the neck and shoulder. Narrowly avoided fatal consequences. Fox himself wasn't as lucky, taking a hit, stumbling from the car, and collapsing in the driveway along Farmers Boulevard. The gunman, masked and dressed in black, fled the scene in a dark Hyundai sedan. Jamel Scott, known as Mel, was soon arrested, facing a charge for Fox's murder, a charge rooted in a complex web of past grudges and allegations. According to investigators, the shooting might have been retaliation for the 1998 murder of Mel's older brother, Curtis. Despite this connection, the case unraveled when a key witness, Brockington, changed her story. Initially identifying Scott as the shooter, she later claimed the NYPD detectives had coerced her into identifying him under the threat of reporting her to the city's Administration for Children's Services, which could have jeopardized her custody of her kids. The weight of Brockington's recanted testimony forced the district attorney to dismiss the charges against Scott, citing coerced statements as the basis. Brockington faced perjury charges, as court records showed her story changing repeatedly, from seeing a masked shooter to identifying Scott directly in a lineup, then retracting her statements entirely. Scott, who had already served 2 years in prison, was finally freed. Fox's story is a haunting reflection of the lives tangled up in cycles of violence, loss, and survival. From his street affiliations to his family's tragic losses, Fox's life and death mirrored the challenges faced by many in these neighborhoods. With his story wrapping up, it's a somber reminder of how street beefs, alliances, and fractured justice systems play out in real lives and tragic losses. In the early 1980s, Lorenzo, Fat Cat, Nichols was making his mark as one of New York City's most powerful drug kingpins. He stood shoulder to shoulder with other legendary street figures like Rich Porter, Alpo Martinez, and IZ Faison in Harlem, as well as the infamous Supreme Team led by Kenneth Supreme McGriff in Queens. You couldn't discuss New York's underworld at that time without mentioning Fat Cat's name. Born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1958, Nichols moved to Queens, New York, with his family at the age of 10. Like many others who would rise to power in the city's street economy, Queens became his proving ground. By 18, Fat Cat was already involved in serious crime. He got busted for 2 armed robberies and sentenced to 18 years in prison. But prison turned out to be the breeding ground for his connections. During his time inside, he crossed paths with a man named Howard Pappy Mason, a meeting that would shape his empire down the line. Fat Cat served about 2.5 years before being paroled in 1980. After his release, he wasted no time, establishing himself as one of Queens' top drug lords. His operation in the Jamaica, Queens area was massive, and he quickly became known for his organization and control. By 1983 to 1984, Fat Cat was in full stride, his crew running the streets, and his operation pulling in serious cash. Meanwhile, his prison acquaintance Pappy Mason was paroled around 1984 or 1985 and reunited with him. Mason became Fat Cat's right-hand man, providing protection for the growing drug operation and enforcing discipline within the ranks. In the 80s, the streets of New York weren't just ruled by locals. Jamaican drug crews were also rising in power. These groups, often referred to as posses, were notorious for their brutality and specialized in the marijuana trade. Their methods and reputations complemented the existing crews in Queens and Harlem, and the competition was fierce. With Fat Cat, Pappy Mason, and other major players operating out of Queens, New York's drug game during this period was a blend of ruthless enforcement, tight organization, and a network that connected street dealers to the higher-ups calling the shots. As the decade went on, the power struggles, money, and violence only intensified, setting the stage for some of New York's most infamous crimes and crackdowns. Back in the 80s, the Jamaican crews were no joke. They had a fierce reputation all over New York City, especially in the boroughs. They weren't just about making noise. They were serious about their business, and everyone knew not to play with them. While their main hustle was in marijuana, some Jamaicans dipped into the crack game too. But for the most part, they controlled the weed trade. But then, a powerful alliance started forming in the streets. Some of the Jamaican crews linked up with the big crack dealers in their neighborhoods. See, the Jamaican guys were making money from weed, but they weren't touching the level of cash that crack was bringing in. Crack was dominating, and the dealers running it were bringing in serious paper. So these big-time dealers saw an opportunity. They began hiring Jamaican muscle for security. And for good reason, these Jamaican crews didn't F around. They came armed, not just with guns, but with machetes, and had no problem using them if things got heated. Their reputation for violence and intimidation was unmatched, making them the perfect muscle to protect crack houses, territory, and stash spots. The Jamaicans had that ruthless edge, and for a lot of these dealers, they were exactly the kind of security you wanted backing you up in the roughest parts of New York. Back then, crack spots were making a lot of money, but where there's cash flow, there's always someone looking to rob it. Stick-up kids would roll through thinking they'd hit the jackpot by raiding a crack spot. But here's the twist. They didn't realize the Jamaicans were already in the mix on those blocks. See, these Jamaican crews weren't just out there selling weed on the side, they were in tight with the crack dealers, acting as a kind of undercover security. So whenever a stick-up kid tried to pull something, the Jamaicans were watching. Next thing you know, they'd come out swinging, machetes in hand, and start slicing and dicing any op in sight. Word traveled quick, too. After a few situations like that, stick-up kids learned the hard way not to F around on those blocks. A lot of dudes got tore up and sent back with a missing arm and all of that, cut up real bad behind, not knowing that the Jamaicans is down with these dudes. All the drug kingpins of the 1980s had dudes around them that would turn your lights off at the snap of a finger. Pappy Mason was a crazy Jamaican dude that would body you in broad daylight and laugh about it. In Harlem, Rich Porter and AZ had Alpo. If you violated Rich or A or stole or anything like that, Alpo would body you and would not even think about it. When Alpo went to DC and he was getting all that money out there, he had Wayne Perry. Wayne Perry was a crazy-looking Jamaican dude that would body you in any environment and would walk away laughing about it. And that's why a lot of dudes that was getting a whole lot of money in the drug game was putting those Jamaicans down with their team. Because they knew the Jamaicans did not care about human life. These dudes would chop off dudes' tops and then put the head in a box and send it to their mother's house. This is the type of time they was on. So when Pappy Mason began doing security for a fat cat, he got kind of lit. His name started to ring bells. People in the streets knew that if this dude, Pappy Mason, came for you, it was a wrap. So Pappy Mason began to recruit dudes under him, and he had a little crew of dudes that was dangerous and violent and crazy just like him. Imagine 5 Pappy Masons. That's what his little crew was like, and they was called the Bebos. In return for being his security, Fat Cat was taking good care of these guys. They were well paid, but Fat Cat was giving Pappy Mason work on consignment. Pappy would take that work and give it to the dudes that was now in his crew and have his dudes selling for him. So now, Pappy got his thing going on. He's making some more money, and also for Fat Cat, he's making his money, and it's a faster way to move the work. But on July 29th, 1985, Fat Cat got knocked at one of his trap spots during a drug raid. When Fat Cat got before a judge at Central Booking, he was hit with a $75,000 bail. Fat Cat paid the $75,000 and was released. Now remember, Fat Cat was on parole. He still owed the system 16 and a half years for those 2 armed robberies. You see, the technology back then wasn't as fast as it is today. Today you can get arrested while you on parole, and when you get downtown to the judge, they're gonna know you on parole, and they're going to contact the parole officer themselves and hold you until the PO says you can release him. Or sometimes the PO will say release him, but when you come in to report to your PO, sometimes they will rearrest you on the spot. All this is depending on the charge. Fat Cat violated parole and was sent to Rikers Island. The parole officer who violated him was named Brian Rooney. Fat Cat is now sitting inside the Tombs or Rikers Island or wherever they sent him, and this dude is going crazy in there because he's like, yo, this man just violated me. I didn't have no drugs on me. I don't care what they found inside the spot. I ain't have nothing on me. He felt like he shouldn't have been violated. He got all this money out there on the street and he can't keep an eye on what's going on. He assumed there ain't no way he was getting out of there. He knew he was gonna have to go back and finish the rest of that time. Fat Cat knew 16 and a half years was a crazy long time. By the time he got out of there, this whole thing that's going on right now, with all this money and all that, is gonna be over with. It's gonna be 2005 when I get out of here. I ain't even get a chance to really enjoy this. And when you look at the drug game back in the 80s, it ain't really get lit like that until like 86, 87, 88. I think those were the best years of the drug game. If you from that era, get in the comments, let's talk about this. 86, 87, 88. Fat Cat knew he was gonna miss out on all of that, so Fat Cat made a call to the streets and he told his security, Pappy Mason and the Bebos, to go and put hands on his parole officer. On October 10th, 1985, Fat Cat's parole officer, Brian Rooney, was shot and killed. Pappy Mason knew somebody that knew Brian Rooney, and he had the dude contact Brian Rooney, and I think he asked him to meet him somewhere downtown. Weeks later, Pappy Mason and the dude Perry were arrested for the shooting. The dude Perry gets in the precinct, and he starts ratting immediately, saying Fat Cat and Pappy Mason set the whole thing up. One day in 1987, Fat Cat's wife, who went by the name Mousy, was driving her car. She got pulled over by 2 men pretending to be police. They told her that they were investigating what happened to parole officer Brian Rooney. Mousy was fake arrested, then blindfolded and put into the back of her van in broad daylight in Long Island. She was taken to an abandoned building in Brooklyn. The kidnappers contacted Mousie's family and demanded money and drugs and said that if they didn't pay it, her family would never see her again. When Fat Cat called home from jail and found out what happened, he refused to pay the money and drugs, but he said that he would give them jewelry and cars. But they didn't want that. A $77,000 ransom was paid to the men by Mousie's mother and father. Her mother and father also let the police know about what was going on. So when the transaction with the drop-off money went down, they had the police sitting somewhere watching the whole thing. On May 24th, 1987, Mousie was released by the perpetrators. A man by the name of King Allah was arrested for the crime. Remember that dude Perry? Well, he's in jail making plans to testify against Fat Cat and Pappy Mason about the hit on parole officer Brian Rooney. Fat Cat once again calls the streets of Queens from jail and tells his squad to clap Perry's father when they see him. On December 4th, 1987, Morris Bellamy, Perry's father, was clapped and bodied. Once again from prison, Fat Cat orders another hit. This time he orders the hit on a girl he was messing with named Maisha. This girl also had a baby by Fat Cat. While Fat Cat was in jail, he had the girl on the street doing business for him. But the work that she was getting from Fat Cat, she was giving it to a guy she was messing with and then in return telling Fat Cat and his dudes on the street that she got robbed. When Fat Cat found out everything that Maisha was doing, he sent dudes on the street to find Maisha, and she was clapped and bodied. In 1988, Fat Cat's wife Mousie was at home with her family when they received the knock at the door by someone posing as UPS, saying that Mousie had a package. When she opened up the package, inside of it was a dead rat and 3 bullets with her name and her children's names engraved in each bullet. The person that had the package sent to Mousie's house was that dude King Allah. He was trying to scare Mousie into not testifying against him in that case. Weeks after that was delivered to Mousie's house, Fat Cat's mother's house was firebombed when a car rolled up and someone threw a Molotov cocktail through the living room window. Fat Cat's 51-year-old sister was killed in the firebombing. She was in a wheelchair. Now in another situation, there was a police officer who was guarding the house of a witness on a block in Queens. This particular block had the Bebos on it, moving work, and this guy that the police were guarding kept complaining to the cops about the dudes being outside moving narcotics, the loud music, and the dudes on the block wanted to get rid of this old dude. They were sending death threats to the guy and doing all kinds of stuff, so there was a police officer that was sitting in front of the guy's house to make sure that this dude was safe because he had received death threats. On top of that, the block was a drug block, so the dealers on the block felt like, if this cop is sitting here all the time, we can't make no money here. Pappy Mason calls the block from jail, and the dudes that's working the block tell him there's a cop sitting on the block all the time. We can't get no money, we can't move nothing. Pappy Mason tells the dudes to handle the situation. A couple of nights later, while the police officer was sitting in his patrol car in front of the witness's house, 3 dudes walked up to the police car and knocked on the window to get the officer's attention. They opened fire on the vehicle, killing the officer. That shooting sparked one of the biggest drug raids New York City had ever seen. The feds knew that Fat Cat and Pappy Mason were involved in this. They knew that it was their people on the streets that was doing this, so what the feds did was they started wiretapping the phones of the people that Fat Cat and Pappy Mason was calling from jail. And the place that Fat Cat was calling the most was his sister Viola's house. Now, when the feds began monitoring Viola's phone calls with Fat Cat, the feds said that what was funny about Viola was, every time she would receive a phone call from Fat Cat and other people, the first thing she would say out of her mouth was, "You don't mention nothing about nothing. I think my phone is tapped." The person she was on the phone with would go, "Okay, cool," and then she would turn right around and go, "Yeah, so-and-so just dropped that off and I gave him this amount of work, and he took it to so-and-so." The feds found out the names of the dealers, where the work was going, how much money they was making and everything. The feds said that Viola would start running off at the mouth so bad that while she would be talking on the phone, people would knock on the door and she would put the phone down, go open the door for the person, let the person inside the house, and then start talking freely, real loud to the dealer inside the house about how much she'd given him and everything. They said Viola's mouth, by her talking so much on the phone, she gave away Fat Cat's whole drug empire while he was in prison, while the feds' real intention of tapping the phones was to find out who killed the cop and the parole officer. So now, on top of 2 bodies, the feds now have a drug conspiracy kingpin case that they wasn't even looking for, thanks to Fat Cat's big mouth sister Viola. Viola's big mouth also sealed the fate of Pappy Mason. In a recorded phone call that she had with Fat Cat, she told Fat Cat on the phone, "I don't know why Pappy Mason had that done to that cop." So now they have the person who had the police officer bodied. They got all this information from her talking on the phone. The crazy part is, like they said, she gave up all that information. And at the beginning of every phone call, she would say, "Don't say nothing about nothing, I think my phone is tapped." Viola Nichols was given 10 years in federal prison for her role in Fat Cat's drug empire. Fat Cat's mother was also arrested in the federal raid. Fat Cat decided to cooperate with the feds so his mother would be released. Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols cooperated with the feds. I think his mother served about 2 years before she was released. Fat Cat received 40 years in prison for his role in his drug empire. Pappy Mason received life in prison for his role in setting up the hit on the police officer. The dudes that was on the street that did the hit, they all got life in prison as well. On February 5th, 2022, Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols was released from state prison into federal custody. I'm not sure where Fat Cat is, but I believe he was released to some sort of federal halfway house, the same way Alpo was when he first came home. With the type of stuff he was charged with, I'm pretty sure they did him the same way they did Alpo, giving him new name and relocating him somewhere else.
The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I wonder can you save